Hello and welcome to ANTHROPOLOGY. I am HARSHA MANNAVA. In this video, we will ask a simple question. Many students come to me asking, sir, we want to take Anthro, but before we take Anthro, we have some time. We have 1-2 months before we can take it. Now what should we do? What is the pre-course work that we must do in order to understand, in order to make the most out of your classes? So what should one do before coaching? Anthro before coaching. So while you enter classes, we will do a lot of work. What must you do before coaching? It's very simple. Before you enroll for Anthro coaching classes, not just with me, with anywhere else, just take time to look at these two NCERT books. Both are NCERT class 12. So these books convey a very good understanding of Indian society, and they give you a good essence of what we are going to discuss in anthropology in depth. So this is Indian society class 12, and this is social change and development in India, also class 12. You will get these books on Amazon, you can buy in a local bookshop, or you can download this free from NCERT website. And not all chapters in these two books are relevant to us. I'll also tell you in detail which specific chapters are useful to us. So the easiest thing to do before you come to the course is understand syllabus, understand what is anthropology broadly, and read relevant parts of these two textbooks. So I said relevant portions. So what are the relevant portions? First, we'll begin with Indian society. If you take Indian society book, there are 7 chapters in the NCERT book. Of these 7 chapters, what is of most importance to us is chapter 3 and chapter 5. Chapter 2 is also in a way relevant. So 3 and 5 are the most relevant, and 2 is also relevant. So if you can cover 3 and 5 from here, that's wonderful. Chapter 3 is about social institutions, their continuity and change. Here the discussion starts with caste system. What is caste in the past? What are the origins of caste? What is the nature of caste? And what is caste today? And how is caste creating problems for India socially, economically, as well as politically? After caste, the discussion then moves on to tribal communities. So tribal communities are people who live in isolation from the mainstream society. They are groups who live in hilly regions, in forests, in deep forests, and these are people who are the weakest sections of Indian society because of their relative isolation from mainstream. So the various currents of development, the various streams of development have bypassed them, and that's the reason why they are lagging in terms of technological forwardness. So we'll understand, this chapter will run you through the classification, the nature of tribal society and different tribal communities, broad idea of their problems and what can be done to improve them. And then we'll also move on to family and kinship. Family and kinship is another important point, because in paper 1 we will discuss marriage, family and kinship, because marriage, family and kinship, these are the 3 pillars on which any society rests. So this chapter gives you a very holistic understanding of these topics conceptually. Although it's very simple and basic, nonetheless it's very, very important. Then chapter 5 is about social inequality and exclusion. This chapter is basically about problems of weaker sections. Weaker sections means those who are in a very disadvantaged position in society, like Dalits, like tribals, minorities, women. Here in this chapter, the focus is mostly on gender, so women and other gender-based minorities. Then the focus is on caste and tribe, so here how caste creates discrimination. We will discuss the problems of Dalits who experienced untouchability throughout history. And then we will also take up the issue of tribal people again and examine this from the point of view of solutions. Next, if you look at the other NCERT book of class 12, that is Social Change and Development in India. If you look at the class 12 NCERT, this is the broad index of this chapter. Even here, we don't need to go through all the 8. It is wonderful if you can go through all the 8, but in the off chance that you don't find the time to examine all the 8, the most important are chapter 2, Cultural Change, and we have chapter 4, Change and Development in Rural Society, Chapter 8, Social Movements. At least cover these 3 chapters, which will give you good understanding of Indian society, its nature and problems, and then when you later on join the course, it will make your life and job easier. Let me quickly run you through this chapter. Second chapter is called Cultural Change. Here we discuss how different kinds of social change is happening. In the first book, we understand Indian society as it used to be. Indian society as it used to be in the past, the traditional system. In the second book, we are trying to understand how society is changing. Like for example, earlier people used to live in large joint families. But today, do they live in large joint families? No. Today we have nuclear families. That is called change. From joint to nuclear, from point A to point B. That is social change. So here we will understand the different kinds of social change, and social change can happen through various processes like Sanskritization, Westernization, modernization, and we will see how these processes have been impacting India in the last few centuries and which of these factors is more relevant to understand Indian society in the present. Then chapter 4 is about change and development in rural society. So in rural society on the countryside, how are things? So we will address things like agrarian structure, we will address things like how villages are experiencing not just economic problems but also social problems. We will examine what is the social structure in village. We will look at some famous village studies, and we will see how various agricultural events like land reforms, green revolution, how did they impact the rural settlements. And we will also maybe understand questions like, in the present day, how should Indian government, Indian policy makers approach rural development such that we can provide development to all sections of society. So that's how you can understand NCERT. So Anthro before coaching, what should you do? First, go through syllabus. Second, understand the nature of the subject. Third, please take time to read at least these 5 chapters across these 2 NCERTs. That will put you in a good position to make the most out of any Anthro course, whichever course you choose to join whenever, right? I hope this helps you prepare yourself better and equips you with the required background that is necessary to make the most out of any anthropology classroom which you choose to join.